Okay, so the other rule you're responsible for knowing is the quotient rule. So the product rule we use if we have two functions that are multiplying each other, and obviously quotient rule is if you have two functions that are being divided. So we'll write it out in math words first. It's the derivative with respect to x of two functions. Again, we'll do f and g. F will represent the function in the numerator. G will represent the function in the denominator. F of x divided by g of x. Then the derivative is equal to the denominator times derivative of the numerator minus the numerator times derivative of the denominator all over the denominator squared. Okay, again, it looks a little scary, but it really isn't that bad. So let's say, for example, I say find f prime of x if f of x is equal to 2x plus 3, or no, 2x plus 1 over x minus 3. So we'll let the numerator represent the f in this equation, and we'll let the denominator equal the g in the equation, right? Because that's what they really stand for, the denominator function and the numerator function. So when I go through and I take the derivative, the rule says rewrite the denominator, which is x minus 3, times the derivative of the numerator. Well, the derivative of the numerator, the yellow piece, is just 2. Minus the numerator, you just keep it the same. Again, I'm just following the notation in that rule. Times the derivative of the denominator. So the derivative of the denominator here is 1. The last thing it says is all over my denominator. I don't take the derivative or anything. It just says the denominator, and you square it. It's good form not to FOIL it out, so my final answer, I'm not going to FOIL out the denominator. I'm just going to leave it like this. So my answer, when I distribute everything in the numerator you do want to simplify. It's going to give me 2x minus 6, distributing the negative, minus 2x minus 1. Right, I'm giving the negative to each one, all over my denominator squared, which I'm still keeping as x minus 3 quantity squared. So when all is said and done, this turns into negative 7 over x minus 3 squared. So now this allows us to take the derivative of functions that are written as a quotient of two numbers. So what I would like to do is give you an example. So that would be example 1. Here's example 2. Why don't you try this one on your own? Find the slope of the tangent line of f of x is equal to 2x cubed plus 1 divided by x to the 4th. Now, if you think back to the homework problems that you were assigned, for a question like this, I would say to you, divide each of these two terms in the numerator by the x to the 4th, and then use the power rule. But you don't have to do that. Now you can use the quotient rule. Okay, so what I would like for you to do is use the quotient rule, like the example I just did above, to take the derivative. And then when you're done, you can press play and you'll see my answer. So pause it here, please. So if you worked the quotient rule out, you should have gotten the same thing that I've got here. Remember that the slope of the tangent line means the same thing as taking the derivative. They are asking for the same thing. So the first step here is that you rewrite the denominator, which is x to the 4th. Then you take the derivative of the numerator. The derivative of the numerator is 6x squared. And to that you subtract. The important thing is to remember, in the product rule you add, and in the quotient rule you subtract. So you subtract the original numerator multiply it by the derivative of the denominator, and then do denominator squared. Make sure the denominator is in parentheses. Because now when we simplify, I'm left with 6x to the 6th. You add exponents when you multiply. Minus 8x to the 6th plus 4x cubed all over. In this case, since it's not a binomial, you can, and when you do a power to a power, you multiply them. So it's going to be x to the 8th in the denominator. Okay, so now when I simplify here, I've got 6x to the 6th minus 8x to the 6th. Well, that's negative 2x to the 6th plus 4x cubed over x to the 8th. Is that supposed to be? This is supposed to be a negative, right? The minus 4x cubed, that should be negative because you're distributing the negative. So make sure your negative is there. And then instead of a plus here, I meant to put a negative here. I made a mistake. Okay, so now when I go through, I can divide everything. See how in the numerator I can factor out an x cubed? So I'm left with negative 2x cubed minus 4 over x to the 8th. So when I go through and I actually cancel these things, my final answer would be negative 2x cubed minus 4 all over x now to the 5th. And that is our final answer. Okay, so now you've gotten a little tutorial on the product and quotient rule. What I would like for you to do now is work on the practice handout that I gave you, 1 through 6. And my little hint is that I want you to make sure that you change any radical exponents, change radicals to fractional exponents. So remember that if you have the square root of x, that really equals x to the 1/2. Be very careful when you take derivatives with fractional exponents. Okay? So work on 1 through 6. And good luck.